What is good, everybody? This is Tony, aka Lord of Last Hearth. We are here tonight on Friday, 8 p.m. A little late, and I apologize for that. But we are here for part two of where do we go from here? And the last time we were on last Friday, we ran through that we put went through Cersei, Jamie, what's going on with Gendry, Arya, Sansa. So tonight, pretty much gonna leave the meat of it all for part two, which is pretty much John and Danny, the White Walkers Night King. But before we get to them, we're gonna start off with the Iron Isles and the Greyjoys. But before we even get to that, I want to introduce two friends of mine that are on panel tonight. Don Willi, tell everybody who you are.
Valor Magolas, everybody. This is Don Willi, and so glad to be back with my man Tony, Lord of Last Hearth. And damn it, I still can't speak because fuck it, right? Anyway, yeah, you already know where you can find me, my channel below here, and banner, a Don of Ice and Fire, all that other good stuff. And yeah, let's finish tearing D&D apart because they deserve it. God damn it.
Agreed, agreed. All right, Alicia, tell everybody who you are.
What's good, everyone? Alicia Kingston, Lord Commander, AK in the Mad Queens. They're on here kicking it with my brother, Lord of Last Hearth, and my homie, Don of Ice and Fire, the Salt King of Westeros. Let's get into this discussion.
Cool, cool. Like you said, I have the links for their two, their channels at the bottom of the video after we're done. So anybody have a problem finding them, you can look right there. The links are there to find these two people. They're very knowledgeable when it comes to this shit. So if you trying to find out anything, go to these two. They won't steer you wrong. So we're gonna start tonight with Euron. And last night, Don Willi did a stream on Theon, and kind of brought to my attention because I had completely forgot about the Greyjoys and the Iron Isles as a whole. So tonight we're gonna start with Euron, and my first question to do with Euron is, does Euron have a plan slash game in his the tactics he's using right now, backing Cersei or teaming up with Cersei? Is there something bigger to this? Should she trust Euron? We'll put it that way to start with. So I go with Don Willi first. Should Cersei trust Euron?
Cersei would be an idiot to trust Euron. But look, it's normally people who are untrustworthy themselves who have the hardest time trusting other people, but then also wind up falling victim to people that they think they can outsmart. And when it comes to Cersei, you got this whole thing with her thinking that she can outsmart anyone, and also just the fact that she is Cersei Lannister makes her more powerful than anyone. Uh, so I don't think it's a thing where I don't think it's a thing where she totally trusts Euron, but I think that she is underestimating just how vicious he might actually be. So I think it's going to be I'm trying to think of what's the word. It's going to be interesting to see, what happens when he arrives with the Golden Company, because I think, this is me speculating right now. I think she's going to think that the Golden Company is under her control, only to find out it's actually under Euron's.
That's a good point. I'm on the same thinking with that. I think with the Golden Company, it's going to be a little more than him just going and picking them up to bring them back to Cersei. But before I get into that, well, ask Alicia. Alicia, what do you think Do you think Cersei's dumb and trusting her, or do you think she even is trusting him at all, or not having some kind of option in case he does try to F her over?
I think she would be really stupid to be trusting Euron. I don't think that she does. But I think that she's going to be classic Cersei. She thinks she's smarter than she really is. I mean, Tywin even said it. You are not as smart as you think you are. And we all know, if you look at Cersei's track record, when her plans seem to be good and they seem to all work, everything ends up backfiring on her in some way, shape, or form. And it's usually very, very big when it backfires. So I think that she believes she can trust him, or not that she believes she can trust him, but that she can play him. And when it really comes down to it, and the Golden Company gets back, she's not going to be in the situation that she thinks she's in, especially now since she's lost Jaime. You know, yes, she still has the mountain, but if enough motherfuckers really come up on the mountain, that dude's head could end up taking off. And the Golden Company, they're a pretty big bunch. They said they're coming over with like 20,000 fighters and a bunch of elephants and other, large war things. So if they really wanted to, if Clegane Bowl isn't in the cards and they really wanted to, they could take the mountain one good time. And then Cersei really isn't going to have anything. Because, I mean, what the fuck is Qyburn going to do? Qyburn's going to spin it to where he can get on Euron's team. And once, I'm pretty sure by now, Euron knows that it's Qyburn that brought the mountain back. He's probably going to try to work with that power that he thinks Qyburn has. And Qyburn's going to be able to do some shit for him. I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. Let me give a shout out real quick to everybody in the chat. What's up, JD? My dragon brother just came through. Eduardo, Violet Messiah, Moni, Ion Throne. Appreciate y'all coming in.
Yeah. I think in the same thing, man. I think Cersei would be stupid to think that Euron isn't probably going to try to have some option to see. Like, I think my whole thing is with the Golden Company. At first, when they first mentioned them, I thought the D&D was just trolling us. Like, look, they throwing a thing out there to the book readers, a nod to them. And we were never going to see them. They were just going to be mentioned. But then when they were mentioned again, and I think, all right, but maybe. Like, a lot of people thought it was going to be the Fagon thing, but that's too late. I think they're just bringing the Golden Company as her. She really doesn't have anybody else. Like, her forces she had were pretty much wiped out in the Field of Fire 2.0. So yep. I can see, her sending him to go get him. But I really think he's going to try to either – he might come back and see the situation is really a no-win situation for her. And might just take whoever's paying them the money out of his hand. It might be through Cersei, but if he's the one giving them, look, you coming to work for us, they don't care as long as they're getting the money. Mm-hmm. So I can see them, taking up for him and him trying to take it for himself. But I guess we'll see. But when it comes to with the Iron Isles as a whole, like, I was watching Don Willi stream last night. He was talking about Theon. I think Theon is never going to rule the Iron Isles. I don't think he's even going to be alive at the end of this. And then it comes to my next question. Do you think, now we see Theon wants to go try to, take Yara and take her out of Euron's hands and save her life. Do you think that Theon is going to end up somehow sacrificing himself? After all the times we've seen him tuck tail and run, is he going to sacrifice himself for his sister? Or do you think it's going to be a typical, Reek flashback and he's going to take off when shit gets hairy? Let's start with Alicia this time.
Now, I think this time Theon is actually going to come correct, because it's not, I don't want to say it's really a matter of pride with him, but he genuinely wants to save his sister and, not have the Iron Islands fall into Euron's hands completely. I think once he gets Yara back, and I do think he will get Yara back, she's probably going to be a bit mutilated, haven't been held by Euron. But I think he'll be successful in getting her back, and he's either going to die in the rescue mission though, or he's going to be severely wounded and he'll die later. But I think when he does go after her, he will be successful, and we'll just go from there. For him, that'll be his last bit of redemption that he's able to do.
What about you, Don Willi? You thinking the same thing, or you got a different outlook on Theon? How do you think Theon's gonna is he gonna pull it off this time, or is he gonna tuck tail and run like always?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with Alicia. I think that he is going to try to rescue Yara, and I think he actually will get Yara. Yara will get away. Theon will die trying to save her. That's what I'm thinking, you know. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm pretty thinking the same thing. I mean, it's hard for me to put faith in Theon because you just see so many times where he just, does the little kid thing, like, and every time something happens with him, it always reverts back to me when he tries to take over Winterfell, and how he acted like a little spoiled kid, like when he's telling Bran. I think Don really brought it up last night about he's telling Bran, well, we're both princes now. Like his attitude was that, like,
on the Stannis.
Yeah, it just cracked me up when he did that shit. Like, oh, because you was held captive here by the Starks, you're a prince now. Like, and I don't know. And I guess, it could go both ways. That, or, because his dad was calling himself king, but his dad didn't even have no faith in him to even, go around and raid in a couple fishing villages. So, you know what I mean? And I kind of like the scene what he had with Jon, though, where it was kind of like saying when he was both Stark Greyjoy. And I think it was Jon pretty much kind of like trying to hype him up, try to like make him like put his, pick his head up, kind of talk, And I think it's gonna kind of mirror Jon when it comes to him finding out about his parentage. He's gonna try to embody both Stark and Targaryen. But yeah, when it comes to Yara / Asha, do you two think that if she is ever gonna finally rule the Iron Isles? You know how the Iron Islanders are when it comes to women, even though she's proven herself more man than most men. Do you two think in the end, or whatever this end may be, is she going to be on top of the Iron Isles? Let's go with Don Willi.
I mean, that's kind of what it seems like they're going for. But I mean, listen, to me, it seems like all of the great houses are going to die out. Yara being queen of the Iron Islands and sticking around the rule, I don't know if that's going to be her thing by the end of the story. I mean, because it'll be too boring. I don't think after all that she's been through that she's going to want to just sit back on the Iron Islands and set up some trade routes. Like, oh yeah, we'll go sailing, we'll try to trade over in Marine and in the Bay of Dragons, and we'll trade with the other Westerosi. I think that would be a little too pedestrian, especially after the ordeal that she's faced, with Euron and with Theon. I think she might still want more adventure. I mean, I could see her still ruling, but I think she's gonna try to find something more to do than just sit on the throne in the Iron Islands and like, hey, I'm queen now, yay. I think she's gonna want more out of life.
Good point. What do you think, Alicia? You think Yara / Asha's days of adventuring are over? Or do you think she's gonna be cool with just sitting back, like Don Willi sitting, just ruling the Iron Isles? Are they even gonna want that to be the rest of the houses? And how do you feel about it?
I think once this is all over, if Yara does survive, I think she will be the one that rules, because Euron and his whole followers, I think they're all going to be decimated. Any of them that do get away, they will willingly and easily bend the knee to whoever the higher power is ruling, and then also to Yara. I think she's going to be the connection that holds them together. And it could be, like Don Willi said, she might see that as a bit of a boring experience. But I think after everything that she's been through, it's going to change her a little bit. And she will get out there and she'll be more, let's see, I want to say all kind of ruling by proxy, like how Tywin was the hand, but he was still also Lord of Castle Rock, and he was, he did still have a strong hand in all of their day-to-day runnings. He had Kevin there as his advisor holding it down, but he was still the man in charge. And I could see Yara appointing someone so she didn't physically have to be there, and she could still be in the thick of things, running through those trade routes, or, being in King's Landing, if there is still a King's Landing, or wherever the ruling capital city is. So she, like let's say she would have a spot on the small council, so to speak, but she would still rule the Iron Islands, but she would be more hands in the dirt all around the realm getting stuff done.
Yeah, I had when they first showed that scene in the show where she's meeting with Danny, her and Theon, like I had a problem with it because it was just like she was like, all right, well, you guys are gonna have to stop doing the raiding and the raping and pillaging, what you guys have done for over 1,000 years, and it's just so easy to be like, yeah. But at first she's like, well, that's what we are, it's who we are. And then she, like, a minute later, she's like, okay, we'll do that. Like, it's all right if that's how you think you want to be or how you feel, but you're speaking for more than just the Greyjoys. Like, you know what I mean? It was just too easy for me to take that. Like, she was like, okay, we'll stop doing it. After she brings up the point is that's the people we are. Like, I don't see it being that easy. Even after going through all they're going to go through, like, we never know. The Iron Islands might not even be touched by this war of the others and all that, you know what I mean? Except for the people that actually come forward to the war themselves. So it might not affect them as much as it affects the mainlanders. Something of that magnitude will probably make you change your ways. But for the people that ain't going to be leaving the islands, I just can't see them being so cool with it like that easily. Like you said it.
With Yara, I mean, even though she did have that reply to Danny when she said that, she wanted them to stop all the raping and whatnot, Yara was already making plans to stop all that shit because she realized it was basically alienating her people and causing them more grief than it was more good. She was already in the mindset of changing things up, and I think she would definitely be fine with them stopping all of that if it means that, like she always had a thing where, like, the mainlanders, quote unquote, always ignored them or thought they were nothing. And people thought that because of the shit that they were doing. And I mean, if you look into all the history of the Greyjoys, they were some assholes. I mean, and the Iron Islands in general, I mean, even as far back as Herod the Black, I mean, and he was probably the most powerful in the line, but even before that, they were doing all this fuck shit and nobody ever wanted to really fuck with them. And that's why once they finally got humbled and brought down, nobody gave a fuck about the Iron Islands or trying to help them come back up or truly be a part of the realm. And Yara / Asha wants to change that. So I think she is going to play ball just like the Dothraki. That was their way of life, invading and raping and taking slaves and whatnot. And Danny shut all that shit down. Everybody was worried about the Dothraki coming in and doing all that shit over here, and they've not done any such thing because they know that's not the life their queen wants them in, so they bent the knee. And I think the Iron Islands are going to do the exact same under Yara's control. And I think it's going to be far better for them than it has in the past, and we'll start to see once everybody starts building back up and, getting back into the swing of things and they're in peace and plenty, and it's going to be profitable for everyone to follow this new way of life. And once they really see that, they're not going to have any problems with how Yara wants to rule.
Yeah, the guy had I probably was more or less worried about the Dothraki in their way because just how in such high regard they hold the people they lead. So like I could see with like Danny, then like I had more less of a problem thinking that they were going to be able to stop the way they did shit. And like the Iron Isles to me, it just was. I don't know why. I don't. I think maybe it was just what I just said about with the Dothraki, like how they have their blood riders, and they when their person they follow dies, they die with them, or they go into revenge, trying to get revenge for them, and then whatever happens, they perish and die after. But it's like with the Iron Islands, I think what their problem is that they they look back at their history of times when they were powerful, like when they had uh uh places from up the Sea Dragon Point, Bear Island, all the way down to Old Town. And like you said, like the hordes, Hair Black and all that, when they had the whole of the Riverlands, like they want that past glory. And it's been a while since that. I mean, it's been 300 years since their Harrenhal was melted down. So it's like they need. I believe you said they really need to start looking towards the future. And I look at Asha more in the book. To me, like she come off more like she was trying to do a different way of doing things. Like it just in how she treated like the Glovers that she had
Right.
as prisoners. You
Exactly.
know what I mean? She treated
Exactly.
them really good.
Like her dad, that was his biggest downfall. He kept looking to the past, talk about we're gonna make the Iron Islands great again and all that bullshit, and they'll
Right.
remember who we were from since Herod the Black and blah. And that was his claim to fame. And where did it get them? Nowhere fast. Their whole society just kept going down and down and down. And I think Yara is gonna be the perfect one to bring it back.
He was on his Balon Trump shit, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So we're going past the Iron House now. We're gonna go to I guess we go to John here. We're gonna talk about John a little bit. All right. We've seen at the very end of last season the whole, Bran sees everything but not the wedding. I don't know. I thought they did that kind of. I just thought it was weird. This boy he sees everything and went over that whole part about John. His parents, and the thing that made it bothered me so much about it was that it didn't when they showed the wedding. It was in front of a weirwood, right? Was it when that the Septon was marrying them? Weren't they in
I
front of
don't
a weirwood?
recall.
Honestly speaking, I couldn't tell. I got to go back and rewatch again and try not to stab my eyes out.
Right, because he was just looking hella horrible, and I don't understand why they got married in the faith of the Seven way.
Right.
Neither one of them really cared about the faith like that. So,
I mean, but no, I think since the Targaryens did kind of accept the faith of the Seven, they had to do it just so John would actually be legitimate. But
true.
I'm still man, I'm still kind of tight at the fact that they decided they're gonna name him Aegon, and I'm just like,
Bruh.
I've heard people say, oh well, that might happen in the book. I'm like,
No.
Why would it happen? I don't get it. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Aegon and Rhaenys were still alive when they got married, and I have to think that Lyanna didn't just pull that name out of a hat. That was a name that her and Rhaegar decided on, so that's why she told Ned Aegon. But why would he pick Aegon? He was trying to make 3 heads of the dragon. He wouldn't have 2 of those heads have the same name. It makes no sense.
And not only that, look, I said it last night. Like, there's only 3 reasons. One of 3 reasons that I could see them doing that for the show. Either A, it's a thing of, okay, well, we don't care what you book people think, which they've been doing for a while. We're gonna name him Aegon since they didn't have, the other Aegon, who a lot of people suspect is a Blackfire in the show. B, it really could be his name, and maybe it's going to be done. I would imagine it would be done a lot differently if it is his name. Or C, they know what his real name is, but they don't want to spoil it. So it's just like, all right, this is their compromise. It's like, all right, we'll give him the name Aegon because even people who only watch the show have heard the name Aegon. They know Aegon the Conqueror at least. So we'll just name him Aegon, and then it'll be, a big surprise for all of the book
Targaryen tie-in.
Yeah, it'll be a big shock to all the book fans when they finally read The Winds of Winter or Dream of Spring, and his name turns out to be something totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same way, but because like with the show, they like to mesh and melt 20 different storylines into one, and like I could understand it more from them, but like, hey, I had people arguing with me about talking about, that if they did it in the show, something that big of a decision, they're not doing it in the book. Like, for one, I just don't see George R. R. Martin. All right, even if Fagon is really a Fagon fake Aegon, they ain't gonna have two Aegons coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if he's really not his legitimate son, I just don't see George R. R. Martin doing that. And then I got the whole argument that, well, Aegon was so great, but there was other great Targaryen. Could have been named Jaehaerys.
Jaehaerys or Aemon would have made more sense.
Exactly. I thought Aemon would have been perfect, especially like Aemon the Dragon Knight. Like,
and Jon always used to be Aegon the Dragon Knight when him and Robb were playing.
Yeah, that made more sense to me than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I can kind of understand what this, like you said, that everybody, even if you just watch the show, is going to know who Aegon is. But yeah, but the book, you couldn't. I don't care what you say to me. There's no way I would believe he's going to be Aegon in the book.
Yeah,
it ain't happening. No, not happening. But anyway, so we get back to that point with Bran. Like, see, I remember it being the wedding they showed, the little clip they did show. I seen there was trees around, but I couldn't remember seeing. I haven't even gone back and watched that episode second time. I mean, I'm sad to say it, but I haven't. I haven't watched any episode twice this season. And usually, like, I'm on it. Like, whenever there ain't nothing on TV or something, I'll watch it again. But for some reason this year, I just haven't done it. But yeah, I didn't know if it was a weird one or not, and that's what made it bother me more. If it was, like, I can understand him maybe missing stuff that wasn't around the faces, but if he was right in front of a Weirwood and that wedding was in front, even though it was held by a septon and done in the way of the Faith of the Seven, maybe they wanted to mesh the two together because the North and the Faith, But like, if it was in front of a Weirwood and Bran didn't see that, that kind of like bothered me a little. But like I said, I don't remember if it was or not. But they find out between the two of them, they put it together. Now the question is, when does we the viewers know? So when does Jon find this out next season? Do you think it's gonna be early in the season? Do you think they're gonna drag it again for the third season in a row? And make it drag all the way out towards the end? Like, I don't see how they could with being 6 episodes left. And I don't know what they're going to do after this war's over, how they're going to try to tie it up, if they're going to go ahead a couple years or not. But we'll go with Don Willi this time first. When do you think Jon's going to find this out? Is it going to be early? Is it going to drag on again?
They would have to do it in the beginning of the season because with only 6 episodes left, that's not something you can save until like episode 5 and be like, oh yeah, by the way, Jon, your name is actually Aegon Targaryen. You are the one true king of Westeros, and blah, blah, blah. Because by the time you get to episode 5, they should already be in the thick of the final battle. So that's something they're going to have to get rid of, a plot point they're going to have to get rid of early. Like, all right, Jon arrives in Winterfell with Daenerys. They're having their political discussions or whatever about, why did you bend the knee, blah, 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 blah. And then Sam and Bran, like, hey, listen, dude, we got to talk to you real quick. Yeah, you're the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark, and, but the thing about it is, okay, so the High Septon performed the secret ceremony it's in the High Septon's diary, but there should be some sort of official document. I mean, if he's the High Septon performing this marriage, it shouldn't just be some little footnote in a High Septon's diary. I mean, you're talking about the legitimacy of whoever is supposed to sit on the Iron Throne. You would imagine that there would have to be some sort of legal document that shows like that he is who they're claiming that he is. Like for it to just be that kind of footnote in the High Septon's diary, really, it really, yeah, it really would be baffling to me. And Bran not already knowing this to me was absolutely ridiculous. Because if he followed the whole thing, he goes back to the Tower of Joy, sees that whole deal, and realizes that Jon is not Ned's son. I'm like, why would he not stay there? After, especially with all the time he's been going to that damn tree, why would he not say, okay, let's backtrack and let's look at the Rhaegar and Lyanna thing and discover that for himself? He shouldn't have needed Sam. He shouldn't have needed Sam for anything. And for him to be, I remember everything. I've seen everything in the past and in the present and everything going on all the damn time. But yet, every time someone pops up, why are you here? What do you mean, why are you here? Like, you shouldn't have to ask that damn question. So, yeah, man. Fuck.
Bran is so extra emo. It don't make no sense.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest problems that whole time. Was like he put it out there like, I'm the three-eyed raven. I see all. And then next scene, it'd be like, what are you doing here? Like, it just went against everything they were setting up for this boy. Like, I understand maybe he was a little overloaded with that mega download he had of gigabytes going into him when the three-eyed raven died. Might have screwed him up a little bit. And maybe he ain't down with his powers all the way, but it just made me laugh every time it happened. Because, like, just like when Sam rolled in, like, oh man, like I said, it gives you. I got a headache talking about that shit this season. I think it's all just based on them rushing this too much. They're going against all their show logic, all against every past things that have happened in the show. Like it's crazy. But yeah, now with Jon's parentage now. I had a question for you too, and I almost forgot about it until you brought this up. Do you think that what's his name, Arthur Dane, Hightower, and Oswald went, the other Kingsguard as a Tower of Joy, right? Yeah, Oswald went. He and Gerald Hightower. How did you think that Rhaegar told them what the deal was? I mean, that tower wasn't that big, so you heard Lyanna screaming when Ned first got there. Like, do you think these Kingsguard knew what they were actually there and what they were actually guarding at the time? And if so, why these men being logical, seem at least, generally educated, why wouldn't they say to Lyanna's brother and Lord of the North, even though they're in a war against each other, look, your sister's out there giving birth to the heir to the throne, like, is there a reason? Do you think they knew that? And if they did, why wasn't this brought up? I mean, they did a lot of politicking before the swords were drawn. Did a lot of talking. So why wasn't that and putting out there?
I think that they definitely knew what was going on because Arthur Dane and Rhaegar were really, really good friends. So I think he definitely knew what was happening. All three of those Kingsguard. And where they were concerned, I think even when Ned got there, it was just the mission. The protect Lyanna, don't let anyone in, don't let anyone take her or the baby and whatnot. Rhaegar didn't expect to die. He fully thought he was coming back. So their job was to protect their future king, and not only their future king, but this prophesied child of ice and fire that they were looking for. And we know the Danes are also very steeped in the mystical in that world. So Arthur probably knew of the prophecy, and he knew what the stakes were. So their only choice was to fight.
What do you think, Don? Will you think the same thing? You think they knew what was going down, what their main objective for being there was? And then that makes a good point what Alicia said. But my thing is too, but like, all right, Arthur Dane is the baddest motherfucker fighter ever lived, pretty much. It's all known throughout Westeros. So even with being that bad, and when you seen 7, 8 cats come up on your 3, I would think you would have to kind of think, okay, maybe we can try, the non-violent approach to this, and see if Ned's, a logical person, and then if not, we just gotta fight to the end. But like, did you think that it was the same, like Alicia said? You think they knew what was going down and the importance of that baby being born, or do you think, this is the right now Rhaegar, the heir apparent, and you're a Kingsguard, you're supposed to, do as they tell you to do? Like they always make I think it's Jamie talks in one of the things in the book where he's talking about having to listen to Ares like rape Rael after burning people because he would get sexually hemmed. He would get all crazy after burning people to where he'd go in there and have rough sex, I guess the way they put it, and have to sit out there and listen to that. And I forget who was telling him, saying, "Well, it's the king. You got to do as the king tells you," kind of shit. Do you think it was just on that level, or did you really think they knew what was going down and how important John was going to be?
I mean, obviously look. Arthur Dane was supposedly Rhaegar's best friend, other than John Connington, right? But I guess John Connington was not as good of a friend as he thought, because he never mentions the whole thing about Lyanna Stark at all. But I think they would have had to know what they were there for. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, like, I think the show kind of gave us the face value version of the story. Me personally, as far as the book is concerned, I don't think that Arthur Dane is dead. I think he may have been incapacitated, and I think that's why there is no new Sword of the Morning, because the old Sword of the Morning is not dead. It might sound like straight crackpot, 25 feet of tinfoil, but that's what I'm rolling with. But yeah, I don't think you get these guys refusing to bend the knee when at this point, remember, this is after the war. Robert is already king now. So there's no need for you to fight for a lost cause unless your cause is being born at that particular point. So yeah, they knew, but maybe not so much about the whole prophecy thing. I mean, maybe Arthur Dane knew. Gerald Hightower and Oswald went, maybe not, but I would imagine that Arthur Dane, out of everybody, should have known.
Yeah, I always had a problem with that too, with the way that it was handled at the end, with how he just made the little graves or whatever and pulled down the tower and all that, and then you don't really. And then the same thing with like a Shard Dane, like it was like Arthur Dane, Shard Dane, they all just they just went out on their way. Like nobody questioned what was said. Like, all right, they said Arthur Dane's dead. Okay, I could see that more. But like with like a Shard Dane, you never hear anybody saying that they've seen her body, anything like that. She jumped from a tower, and like then they said, well, a lot of people argue the fact that she jumped into some water or whatever, and that's why they found the body. Okay, well, there was a battle between Daemon Targaryen and One Eye Aemon over the God's Eye, and they went down into the water, and they even got back Dark Sister out of it. So, like, what makes it so hard, you know what I mean, for them to fathom that they could get a body out of the water if somebody jumps in, you know what I mean? Like, it just, there were just so much things, like, just left to be, to somebody's word. Like, oh, this is what happened. Don't question it kind of shit. And like you said, that always, it's funny because there's not too many people I talk to that feel that way about the Sword of the Morning. Like, I understand they put a big emphasis on Sword of the Morning where, like, you gotta be worthy enough to even hold it. But, like, you know, I don't know. That makes a good sense though with the whole, you know, that's why we don't ever see a Sword of the Morning. And you know, it just, I don't know. It there's a lot of stuff left unanswered. Who will finally get the answer to? That's why, like, I hate when I hear people say, "Well, this happened in the show. Something that big happened in the show. They're not gonna not put it in the book." Like, how do you figure? Like, they've already gone totally different paths in the show from the book, you know, about other stuff. So why not that? You know what I mean? But whatever. I guess, you know, we'll find out one day. But when it comes to John's parentage, now now we know it's going to affect him. And it's a dumb question to ask if we think if it's going to affect him or not. But what do you think it's going to hinder his the way he deals with this war for the Dawn? Do you think it's gonna, in the beginning, you know, if say it's told to him and, you know, bam, there's battle that day before, next day, do you think it's gonna hinder him somehow with the calls, you know, for what they need to do? Do you think, you know, because it's just gonna eat him up so much? Or do you think John's pretty much gonna you know, deal with it, get over it, and move on? How do you think it's gonna affect Don Willi?
Look, I think, look, first off, look, if somebody came to you right now and, you know, you've been who you are your entire life, you've had this particular identity. Remember, John is the guy who never wanted any of the things that he was kind of given in terms of responsibility. Uh, he didn't want to be Geo Mormont's steward. He didn't really want to, you know, uh, go with the wildlings, but he did it because it was his duty. Uh, you know, same with him becoming the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. That wasn't something that he ever told people, "Hey, I want to be Lord Commander, vote for me." And even him being King in the North, you know, this is all stuff that he was like, you know, this is not what I asked for. Uh, and so if someone now comes to him, even though yes, he trusts Sam, he trusts his brother Bran, or you know, his cousin, and they come to him and now say, "Oh yeah, your entire life has been a lie, and you are the rightful heir to the Iron Throne." He's gonna look at that and be like, "Man, if you don't get the fuck out of here with that dumb shit, come on, man, stop it." You know. So I think he would immediately reject it as like some type of maybe it's something not necessarily as well. Yeah, he might think it's a joke. He might think it's a joke at first until these guys keep on, you know, hounding like, no, 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 it's serious, it's for real. I can, you know, show you the High Septon's diary, blah blah blah, and then, you know, even after that, he's going to be conflicted in terms of, okay, well, I'm the heir to the Iron Throne, which I didn't necessarily want to begin with, but I've already bent the knee to Daenerys. I'm not really trying to cause any problems right now with all this, so I don't know. Maybe we don't tell anybody. Maybe, you know, just let Daenerys have the kingdom. It's cool, you know. So I think that it's not going to necessarily affect him in terms of wanting to fight. I think it's going to be more of a thing. Was like, look, at this point, what does it matter anymore? What does it matter if I'm king? You know, we got bigger issues. Maybe after the war is over, maybe I'll try to make a marriage alliance with Daenerys and whatever. But I just think that he's gonna be like, look, there's too much other grave life ending shit to worry about, for you guys to be bringing this up now and possibly start a whole other war. So nah, I don't think it's gonna affect him in that particular manner. I just think that he's gonna be like, look, it's not important right now.
Yeah, I never looked at it like that, like you said, but him just if Bran and Sam come to him, themselves and nobody else around, and him, I could see that with John maybe just wanting, let's keep this, until shit cools down, maybe, or like you even said, not say nothing at all because he already bent the knee. I thought maybe that he would. I think with accepting it more, like you said, he might think it's a joke. I think that if anybody will accept Bran's powers, it would be John because what John has seen with the White Walkers. He's seen wargs too with Orell, I think his name was, or Orthel, whatever his name was, the wildling guy, and so I could see him accepting how Bran sees it, and then to top it off with Sam. But that's a good point, though. I could see him doing something like that because John is never, like you said, he's never wanted to be Lord Commander. He never even, like you said, go with the wildlings, none of that. And it's like he just wants to be John. Like he don't want all that extra responsibility and shit. So I can see, like you said, just he might not even want to deal with it. Just let everybody think what they want to think, and him being a bastard, like you said. You've been told your whole life you're this bastard. You've had to deal with the bullshit of being a bastard all the time. People throwing it in your face, and here this whole time, and then like you have then Stark. I think it's going to bother him more is how he held his so-called dad Ned on a pedestal, and this whole time, even though it's for the better, he lies to him and tells him he's this bastard, and he has to deal with the ridicule of that his whole life, and then like I can see it bothering him to more with that, just being able to trusting Ned and always looking up to Ned. But did you hear that, Alicia, before when you went over from the camera? That how do you think John's gonna deal with finding out his true parentage?
I think he is definitely going to be in a state of denial for a little bit, but because of we're on the time crunch here, he's not going to dwell on it for long. I think it'll be kind of like how we saw Gendry automatically like pick up his father's banner and be down for his house when he came back into the picture. I think John, he might mull it over a bit, but then he's going to accept it, and he's probably going to use that as a tool to try to help get everybody else in gear for this war, like more so than he has been doing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think I know like how John, when it comes to taking command, and I can see that point too. He just there's a bigger thing going because he's the first one to throw out there that there's a bigger things going on out there than who's heir, who controls this. Because in the end, if they all die, it ain't gonna matter.
Is one thing that I just remembered, like when John and Davos were having that talk with Missandei, and she called him Lord, and then Davos went to correct her again and say, that doesn't sound right. Should it be like King John or something like that? And John's like, it doesn't matter. There's better things to talk about and prepare for than what his title is or what his name is.
Now to go from that, how it's gonna affect John. Now when it comes, we see this relationship building between him and Dany on a emotional and sexual level. So when it comes to not just John, how he's gonna deal with it. So is it gonna? Do you think it's gonna change the way John looks at Dany? Even Dany hasn't really had much of her Targaryen thing to her. She hasn't had it in her face like previous Targaryens, where it was pretty much common thing that you were going to marry your sister slash brother when you come of age. So she didn't have to deal with the whole incest part of it. I mean, I don't know if I think Viserys says something either in the book or the show about he should have married Danny or something like that before she's supposed to go off with Khal Drogo. So I'm pretty sure she knows about it. But how do you think it's going to affect his relationship with Danny, like John slash Danny? Do you think Danny is gonna, look at him different? John gonna look at Danny different? What do you think what's gonna happen with that? We'll go with Alicia first this time.
I think, like I said, John, he'll be miffed about it for a little bit, but he'll quickly get over it. With Danny, I don't even think she'll bat an eye at it. I mean, she thought when she was younger that she would grow up to marry Viserys anyway, because that's just what Targaryens did. So I don't think it'll affect her too much. And because of that, I think, when she sees John, in getting his feelings about it, that that stress is what's going to affect her. Like, I think he'll probably withdraw from her and from everyone a little bit until he really mulls this over in his head and finally accepts it. So for her, I think she'll just be trying to figure out what's wrong with him. Why has he done this cold switch seemingly? But once she finds out, it's not going to be a thing, and I think she'll probably help John to get past it because of her Targaryen heritage as well.
What do you think, Don Willi? You think that Danny's going to be cool with it, or you think it's going to be more of a problem for John than it's going to be for Danny, or vice versa?
I think it'll be a problem for both of them, but on different levels. I mean, here we have Daenerys, who, has been wanting to be queen. And, how would you feel if you were her? You've done all this, you finally got, the king in the north to bend the knee, and now all of a sudden you find out that he's ahead of you in the line of succession. I mean, I can imagine her probably throwing a temper tantrum and be like, no, but I'm the one with the fucking dragons. No, you don't even look like a Targaryen.
Mine by rights.
Yeah, so I could see that being an issue, but maybe once she's calmed down and sees that John doesn't necessarily want to be king, then the issue might still be, well, yeah, I'm a northerner, and the whole thing about me sleeping with my aunt isn't necessarily a cool deal with me. And she might be like, yeah, but you're a Targaryen, so, it shouldn't be an issue. Look at Daemon Targaryen and was it Rhaenyra?
Yeah, Rhaenyra.
Ours.
Yeah.
So he might have an issue with that, and she might be like, nah, that shouldn't be a problem. If it wasn't for the whole thing with me being married off to Khal Drogo, I probably would have married my brother Viserys. And he'd be like, what the hell? I thought only Lannisters did that.
Alleged Lannisters.
That was always my thing with everybody knew how the Targaryens from day one were incestuous. So, but then as soon as the Lancers did it, everybody's like, "Oh, that's disgusting." I didn't like the Lancers as much as anybody else, but I just didn't understand people's outlook on I understand she was married to Robert. I had a little more problem with that, but with her being with Jamie, and I just understand the way people took it when it was y'all knew the Targaryens were doing it for 300 years, and yeah, people had a problem with it, but they wouldn't come out and so much say it unless you had the more zealous faith following people that didn't agree with it. How they pretty much the faith pretty much went with it at first because the outcome of not going with it would have been terrible for the realm. But after Maegor took over and everything, they really started having problems with it. So I can see some people under it's kind of like the North Korea thing. You probably think Kim Jong-un's crazy, but you ain't gonna come out and tell your neighbor. You know what I mean? So I think I look at it the same way. Like I didn't understand how like the people had such a problem with Jamie and Cersei outside of her being unfaithful in her marriage and having these kids passing them off as you know rightful heirs. I understand that part, but I just didn't understand why everybody was so like up in arms about the incest when the Targaryens been doing it for so long. But I don't know. Anyway, so with the when it comes to with John, like you said, I think you know when John comes out and he says he don't want the real parts of being king and all that. I don't see it. Problem, me though. I think Danny might not take that as you know, even though John's pretty much you know truthful, honest, and all that, and honorable. Like you ain't gonna hear too many people say, "I don't want to be king." You know what I mean? Especially when people are coming to you saying, "Look, you're the rightful heir." Everybody knows John. John don't want that, but she don't know John as good as most. But I don't know. I guess if she gets over that, you know, and realizes that John don't want nothing to do with it, I think it'll be all right for him. Like you said, I think John will have more of a problem with it just because, like, the way they're brought up, like in the North, like every once in a while, you might have a second cousin somehow you're married to kind of thing, but it ain't never, you know, yeah, your aunt marrying your nephew kind of shit. So I could see where John would have more of a problem, but. I guess we'll just have to see. When it comes to the show, anything's possible. But what now with John? We all think that he doesn't want to be king. We all know how John is. He doesn't want really any extra responsibility. So, what do we think John's end game's going to be? Not just with like the White Walkers, but like his when it comes to him being revealed that he is the one true heir. Now we know John ain't gonna want it, but do you think John's gonna kind of be pushed into that role as people coming to him pretty much saying you're our last hope kind of thing? Or do you think John's never even gonna touch any kind of being king, anything like that, if there even is a king of Westeros at the end? The Don Willi, we'll go with you first.
Yeah, so just to throw a curveball into things, I think scheming ass Sansa would probably be like, hey, you know, aunt and nephew, not really such a cool thing, but cousins are just fine. Hey, look at me over here. I know you like redheads. I've heard how much you like redheads. Looky. So I can see Sansa trying to scheme her way into being queen and talk about, hey, me and you should get married. We can continue the Stark name, the Targaryen name, all that. Who needs the Silver Queen with her dragons when you have me? So, I could see that going on and John kind of being like, yeah, listen, not for nothing. You were a bitch to me for all of our lives. And when I became king, you sat there and argued with me, and now here you are talking about, hey, here's my panties, John. So nah. I think John is just gonna be like, look, if that's what the people want, I'll do it. But yeah, I just think that he is gonna until the war is over, he's gonna kind of try to reject all of that stuff, you know. So yeah, I mean, I just think he's still gonna be mopey ass John. He's not, there's not gonna be any upside to this for him.
Yeah, I never thought that's funny you say that because I never thought of that with the whole Sansa. Because I remember a lot of people were saying even before he finds out that he's starting like, oh, I could see John and Sansa getting married and all this shit and ruling the North together. But yeah, I didn't think about that. That's funny the whole redhead thing too. How do you think, Alicia? Do you think he's going to be pretty much just pushed into the position of being savior for the people? Do you even think there's going to be a king to be after all this?
To add on to the Valyrian steel tinfoil, John could basically take the role of Aegon the Conqueror and have two sister wives, so to speak. Random thought.
Damn.
But What was the actual question again?
Do you think that John's gonna pretty much? We know he doesn't want to be, but you think he's gonna be pushed into the position to be like everybody's last and only savior kind of thing, to be king of Westeros, if there's even gonna be the king of Westeros in the end?
Yeah, I think he will take the mantle if he has to. His concern is the Great War, and even after that, his concern is going to be with the North and helping them rebuild more than anything. So if him being king is going to aid in that, I mean, he's already a king. He'll just be a higher level, boss king, I guess. I think he'll take on the responsibility because that's how John has always done. When he needs to take responsibility and lead, he will. So I think I could see him using the marriage to his benefit for the North and also to the realm. I mean, he's not a bad dude, and I think him and Dany could rule pretty well together.
All right, that's good. Yeah, I can see that happen. With the we already pretty much talked about what Dany will feel towards John, finding out who John really is. Now, when it comes to Dany, do you think that it's already pushing towards her having a child again somehow? But do you think that Dany will ever see this child grow up, or do you think it's going to be a instance where she dies in childbirth? I really do believe that Dany will never sit the Iron Throne. I think it was the reason the visions like that in the House of him dying, where she almost touches the throne and then is pulled away. I think that's a big sign. And then how much she puts out there that she's supposed to sit the throne and all that. I think it's just too put in your face for it to happen. So, do you guys believe that Dany is ever going to have a child? And if so, will she survive to see this child grow up?
It's a gamble either way. Everyone everyone is marked for death. No one is safe. I do think that she can get pregnant again. When she was riding Drogon, she felt her wound quicken pretty much. And that was one of the things that Mary Mazdora said would have to happen for her to be able to get pregnant. And they didn't show the other aspects of what Mary said, but I think it's leading to pregnancy with this connection with John. And from there, they'll just go however they're supposed to go. She may die in childbirth, or she may die sacrificing herself. And I don't know, maybe the powers that be will still dictate that she needs to be alive, like with Beric, and she'll be sent back until the job is done. I don't know, tinfoil, but it can happen.
What about you, Don? Will you think she's I mean, we already see her being pushed towards her having a child. Do you think she's gonna have this child? Is she gonna be alive to see this child grow?
I mean, I think they're definitely pushing towards that way. But it's funny about the Miri Mazdor thing, and unfortunately, us who actually read the books, we get this confused with what happened in the show sometimes. Miri Mazdor in the show actually did not mention anything about Daenerys's womb quickening again. It was all about the whole Khal Drogo thing, like, oh, when will he be as he was? And then it was like, when the sun rises in the west and sets in the east and all that other stuff. So it's funny that they threw in a book thing that never actually happened in the show. But they expect people to just kind of not pick up on that. But yeah, it's one of those things where they're kind of really beating us in the head with it, and I could see them doing that as part of the whole bittersweet ending where Daenerys gives birth to a child, and then it turns out that she winds up dying in childbirth, and never gets to see the child grow up, and Jon is left to raise the child on his own as like the last Targaryen and trying to forge a new uh dynasty and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, Daenerys getting pregnant at this point is almost a foregone conclusion. You know, I'm wondering though if they will actually have her showing, because I mean, Cersei should have been showing at some point during season 7. If they don't have Cersei showing by season 8 that she's pregnant, I'm going to be highly highly annoyed, more so than any. And you know, there's somebody in here in the chat right now, not on the panel. Somebody in the chat owes me a debate, and oh boy, you're gonna have a hard time talking down this one.
Yeah, I believe, like you said, the bittersweet thing. I think that's probably going to be it's a good chance that that'll happen. Where to get onto the bittersweet thing too. When it comes, I know how Tony Teflon feels about this, but how do you two feel about the whole Nisa thing? Do you think that Dany is going to end up being John's Nisa? You think that whole thing is going to, we always talk about history repeats itself. Do you think that's going to play out with those two, or do you think, you know, that was something that happened then and it's not going to happen again? Not at least with these two. How about you, Don Willi?
I mean, so I know Tony Teflon talked about the whole Nisa thing. Look, you obviously can't have both happen. You can't have her die in childbirth and then also be killed by Jon with a stab through the heart. They haven't ever mentioned the Nisa thing in the show whatsoever, so it would be a little weird to bring that up now. Yeah, because even with the whole thing with Azor Ahai, they never mentioned Azor Ahai. Well, no, they may have mentioned. I think they mentioned Azor Ahai when the first time we ever meet Stannis.
Stannis, yeah, that's on the beach. I think it's the only time.
Yeah, and that was probably. I think that was the only time we ever got the mention of the exact character of Azor Ahai, and then never anything else. Everything else has been, you know, the prince who was promised, the one who was promised, etc., etc. So, you know, what if it happens that, you know, that the child of Jon and Daenerys is the one who was actually promised to bring the dawn, instead of Jon or Daenerys? That would be kind of a crazy thing if it happened to be their child. But I don't see the Nisa thing, only because you would have had to. I don't know. I mean, like, it's not that they can't do it. I mean, if the episodes are gonna all be supposedly 2 hours or an hour and a half, they might have time to do it. But I would just hope that it wouldn't be something super clunky to where it's like, oh, you know, sorry, Zora High and Nisa, and there's got to be another Nisa, and or whatever. I mean, so I'm not saying that it can't be done. I just think it's a little late, since they haven't really mentioned, uh, the Zora High. Like, how would you set it up? Is the question.
Yeah, I fully agree. I do not see Nisa happening on the show. If it happens at all, I don't see it happening in the show. And like you said, with Azor High, that I can remember, it's only been mentioned when they were on the beach burning the false idols of the faith. And with Mel, she tends to mesh the prince that was promised, the one that was promised, Azor High, all together as one thing. And from what I've understood, it they were different regions of that world's stories on who came and brought the dawn. You know what I mean? They weren't all the same exact person. But yeah, I don't the show. Yeah, I don't see it happening at all. pretty much, I feel you probably feel the same way, right, Alicia? You don't see that the whole Nisa thing playing out in the show.
Nah, I don't think it will. Definitely it'll come into play in the books, but they don't have time to toss in all the extracurricular prophecies anymore. So they'll probably just skirt around it with a huge plot hole, and that'll be that.
Right, right. Yeah, I believe the same thing. I don't think they don't even have time to finish up the shit they already started. So I don't see them bringing anything else in. So with that, with Danny now, pretty vague outlook, I guess, for us. What is everyone's opinion on Danny's end game? Does Danny? I mean, I guess it goes back to the question if she survives having a child and all that. So say Danny does survive, if she has a child or not. What is Danny's end game going to be? Do you think Danny is going to be some kind of sacrificial lamb to this whole thing? Does Danny make it through? I myself don't think Danny's going to survive. If it was between her and John, I think John has more of a chance of surviving. Now, that doesn't take away that I think John might not be some kind of sacrifice. I think John's going to end up being some kind of buffer in the end, either becoming the White Walkers' leader to bring them back up north, to keep them up north kind of thing, or, you know, some way John, I think, is going to be used as like this, you know, like the pack kind of thing where, you know, John's going to have to be the one that ends this somehow. Now, it might not mean his life is going to be taken, might mean his mortal human life might be over, but like I said, I think he has a better chance of getting through this whole thing than Danny. What about you two? What do you think with Danny? Think Danny survives this? Do you think she's a goner? Outside of the whole childbirth thing, do you think there's another end for Danny other than dying in the childbirthing process or whatever? What is your guys' opinion on that? Go to Alicia first this time.
I think there's a very strong possibility that Danny will definitely die. And I think that there's also a possibility that she might become the Night Queen. I mean, when we saw her fly in to the rescue on Drogon, she had that cool ass, heavy wool, like light gray, almost white outfit on, and she blended in just like so well with the North. She actually looked quite stunning. So that may possibly have been a setup to show us that, you know, that might be her future, is being in the North, looking extremely awesome while being a cold White Walker. I don't know.
What about you, Don Willi? You think she has a alternate end in her future, or do you just think maybe it's going to be the whole childbirthing process that takes her life?
Oh, and real quick, happy early birthday, Felicia.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Yeah, happy name day, Felicia. Let's see. As far as Daenerys is concerned, another route that I could see them going is, you know, in order to stop the war, Jon has to become the new Night King, has to stay up north in order to keep the White Walkers at bay. Daenerys goes to either Dragonstone or King's Landing, becomes the queen of the Seven Kingdoms, but has to raise their child by herself. You know,
I can see that too. Yep.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I kind of with like what you said, being I think a lot was said with Alistair Thorne when John's talking to each one about their last words and their Gary Hang, and how he tells John that you're never going to get a day of peace, pretty much, because pretty much saying like he's going to live forever. And that makes like total sense when if he was to have to take the White Walkers to keep them north. Because we don't know right now, especially with the show, like we don't know what this Night King, how long he's been alive. So like if they live on until either somebody stabs them with dragon glass or Valerius sword, so you know John could live for another 1,000 years, and that's his whole purpose, is to keep them at bay. It seems like the rest of these White Walkers go by the Night King's bidding. So if that makes total sense when it comes to John, and I like that really stuck out to me when Alistair Thorne told him like it's never gonna end for you. You're constantly gonna be fighting. And that right there hit with me about how he's going to somehow have to pretty much suffer, and not have, he might have a child, like you said, Dan. He might have to raise him by herself. He's never going to know love again, probably, because all he's going to be in this, winter wasteland, keeping a bunch of White Walkers at bay. That makes perfect sense. Let's see, with now when it comes to this War for the Dawn, um, where do you two think that this first? We started seeing them come through the wall. Where do you think this first major battle is going to be? Not like where they go through and wipe out something without any kind of struggle or fight. Where do you think the first major battle is going to be with the main players, John, Jamie, whoever is involved? Where do you think that first major battle is going to happen? We'll go with Don Willi first this
time. See, here's the thing. So you would imagine that the first major battle would have to be either Last Hearth or Carhold, because they definitely mentioned, those are the two main, the first castles. The White Walkers have to get out of the north, right? Like, they kind of have to. It would be very asinine for them to not make it out of the north. So, and this might sound ultra far-fetched, super tinfoil, but what if the White Walkers like purposely start bypassing all of the major castles and holdfast in the north, and we get our first battle somewhere like at Harrenhal?
That is interesting.
Yeah, because you got to remember, the White Walkers are first men. All of the northern castles are all first men castles. We got to get the White Walkers south. We have to. Because it would just be absolutely ridiculous if you had the White Walkers and like the whole of Westeros just goes to battle them in the north, and that's the only place that they battle is in the north. That would be like, that wouldn't show how big of a threat they are. Now, the first battle could take place in the north, and it could be, Winter Falls at Winterfell, or that Winterfell, the castle actually falls and they have to abandon it. That would be pretty interesting if they did that, where the first battle winds up being at Winterfell and it's like, all right, we got to get the hell out of here. But I don't know. I mean, I could see it being either Carhold or Last Hearth as like the first battle. But if you want to talk about major battles, yeah, I mean, it depends on what road they're taking. If you're talking about the White Walkers simply marching down the King's Road, then obviously they go smack dab into Winterfell. But yeah, I don't know. I want to see what's going to happen with how they're going to get the White Walkers into the South. Because they have to get below the neck. It would be a waste of how big of a threat they're supposed to be if every battle that they have is in the north, and so you have to have the North fall. And I think the biggest way you do that is for the Northerners to lose Winterfell to the White Walkers. So if you want to talk about major battles with like tons of named characters, Winterfell, first battle.
Yeah, that's a good point, because if you look at like where Eastwatch is, and if you look at like Last Hearth, it would be the first major castle that they hit. But even like Last Hearth's more to that side of the wall than it is like Castle Black or the one that's on the left. But so yeah, like you said though, like I don't see it just staying in the north. Like I don't think there was any reason. There's a reason why they show when Jamie's leaving it starts to snow. Like I think anywhere that winter the season itself touches is fair game to the White Walkers. And I think that's a big reason too why they tell us, like with the Vale, the Riverlands, like how the Riverlands is the major region that suffers during war because it's like that halfway point. It's pretty much plains. It's not a lot of like hills and mountains and shit. And then like even what you said with the neck's marsh, but it gets cold enough that'll freeze over. So you know how they always use Moat Cailin as like a place that you could defend the north because that's the only real like choke point through into the north because of the marshiness. But when that all freezes, that's all fair game too. So I can see like the Vale playing a big part too, just like some kind of fallback. You know what I mean? Like maybe if the north gets taken, but they just blow through the north, they're gonna have to retreat somewhere. But what do you think, Alicia? What do you think the first battle is going to be? You think it's going to be like Don Willi said, pretty much somewhere in the north, or you think they're going to retreat down some before it gets to that? I mean, they're moving pretty quick, it seems, they're already through the wall. So
I think they'll do like they did this past season. I think Last Hearth and Carhold are the two closest to the wall. Motown is also up there, and I think Motown is going to be completely decimated. But like they did this season, I think they'll have those battles in play, but they'll only show it briefly off or talk about it while it happens off screen. So once they get to Winterfell, that's where the really big battle is going to be. And I think they're probably going to run everybody out of Winterfell. They're going to have to fall back south, more than likely to the Riverlands or to the Vale, because, Starks, they have those family ties there. So once the White Walkers do get south, I think it's possible that they could bypass all of that, and it could be like how Davos was, telling Stannis, hit the city now while everything else is distracted. They could decide not to fight those wars in the north and just head straight south, and it would make sense because a lot of people were thinking that after Hardhome, they would start heading south through the wall or around the wall somehow from there. But he ended up marching like all the way back to Eastwatch when he could have found passage in the area that they were in, but he chose not to. So there may be some huge strategy that we're not aware of just yet. And if they do pass all those castles, and it's possible they might even pass Winterfell. So, all those forces will be trapped there once they get to the neck. And I think they'll definitely be able to get past Moat Cailin. And the battle will go south at least as far as Harrenhal and the Isle of Faces. I don't think it's going to stay in the north. The north will not be able to hold it. They'll fight the good fight, but then they're going to retreat afterwards.
Yeah, like I said, I think anywhere that the season of winter touches, it's pretty much gonna be fair game. I don't see a reason for them to show like winter touching these other places if it's not gonna eventually hit there. Like and we don't know too, like we understand like how the Night King can raise the dead. So every person pretty much human wise that gets killed is gonna be another body added to his army. So you think if say the North got 20,000 fighting people, just then that's being generous. So if they killed even half of them, and the North can't even take out 5,000 of them, like they're gonna keep adding more and more and more until they find that deciding blow that's gonna take them out. So and then with speaking of that, do you think that or you just mentioned the Isle of Faces. Do you think that the Isle of Faces are gonna have a part to play in this war? Do you think that there's, because it's, especially in the books, it's mentioned so much but left so little to what it really means? So what do you think that's going to have a part to play? And this is mainly more book wise. I know in the show they don't really hit on it. So What do you think the Isle of Faces, if any, is going to have a part to play in this, Don Willi?
I don't think that the Isle of Faces are going to play any part whatsoever. I mean, I don't know, but then again, they could. It could be a last minute thing, but Brandon's like, we have to get to the Isle of Faces. It is the only way for us to stop the White Walkers. Please, someone reboot me so that I can have some type of feeling.
What do you think, Alicia? That's really the really reason why I asked, because with Brand it being like the biggest concentration of weirwood trees with faces, pretty much. Like I thought maybe with the old god thing, it had maybe some kind of significance. I mean, that was a good point you bring it up with Brand. I don't really think so much in the show at all, but that being the point, like they might bring that up. But what do you think, Alicia?
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a bigger plot point in the books than it is on the show. But I think it still can come into play. I think there may be some children's of the forest still there, and that will be an asset that they utilize to help stop the army, or at the very least to give some history on the situation and whatnot.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't season 6 DVD they had the story of the Night of the Laughing Tree, and then they talk about when the one that mirrors narrating?
Yeah.
Don't they talk about Howland going there?
Yep. Yeah, he went there to pray,
right,
and to like ask for strength or something or other, and from there is when he went to Harrenhal, and we got the Night of the Laughing Tree storyline.
See, I try to look too a lot of times because I think that's the best part of the whole damn shows is when every year when the DVDs come out and they have the history and lore. And it's crazy some of the shit they'll show in the show, but then they'll put the history and lore in there that kind of tends to go more book wise, I think. And I think maybe there's reasons why they put that in there so people aren't completely like naive to the fact of, what the Isle of Faces are and all that. It's just weird I think for them to put that in the DVD and then, the show not hit on it whatsoever. But I could be wrong. Who knows? I can't tell when it comes to D&D what's going to happen. But, yeah, so we all pretty much think that this is going to go further than the north. But now, when we talked about what we think the first major battle or how it's going to open up pretty much. Now, since we talked about the first, what do you guys think is going to be one, if not the deciding battle, deciding thing that happens for this to finally end the bloodshed? Is it going to be a one-on-one John versus Night King? Is it going to do we see Dragon versus White Dragon? Like, what is this final thing going to be where it finally ends the bloodshed and people can start to rebuild? We'll go with Alicia first.
Hey, wait, say that again, please.
With it, when it comes to the last deciding battle / scene, whatever is going to happen to where it's going to end the bloodshed and then the people can start to rebuild. Do you think it's going to be a one-on-one type of thing with John the Night King? Is it going to be some kind of sacrifice, some kind of pact's going to be made? What do you think is going to end the bloodshed and people can go back to rebuilding their lives as it used to be?
I think that there's a very strong possibility that another pact will be made. There's also a possibility, I think, that either John or Bran, even because he's connected with the Night King on a psychic level, so it could end up being like a battle of wills with them. But I'm thinking, and this is again tinfoil, it could end up being almost like Davy Jones and the Flying Dutchman in Pirates of the Caribbean. They killed Davy Jones because he was ultimate bad guy. He had to go. But the Dutchman still needed a captain. Someone still had to take that mantle. So if it comes down to John, I think he would sacrifice himself, kill the Night King and then take on that role himself to march everybody back north of the wall.
What about you, Don Willi? Who do you think's gonna be this end deciding battle or whatever pack sacrifice gonna be?
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to wind up happening. It's going to be a thing where you have the Battle of King's Landing, where the Night King comes, uh, he destroys the Red Keep. He winds up killing Rhaegal, and then afterwards, Jon and the Night King have their one-on-one duel. But then after he kills the Night King and destroys the White Army, the other White Walkers are still going to be there, and then Bran is going to probably hit him with something like, "Oh well, Jon, the only way for you to stop this is for you to become the Night King." And then we get the whole thing of, well, shit. So yeah, you have to go to the lands of always winter and reign there for 1,000 years and start the cycle all over again. And in 1,000 years, another Stark/Targaryen will have to take your place and become the new Night King.
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, there's gotta. That was the next question was gonna be too. Was what was the whole start to this what is it, rotation of Long Night? Like what made the White Walkers or the Night King start the White Walkers on their march south? A lot of people think, because like, oh, they wasted, and why did it take them so long to get from, when we get book one and show episode one where the Night's Watch guy deserts and Ned has to take his head off. And like what made them start coming like south? Like did they have to take that long because they had to wait with the winter? Like a lot of people, there's always been a question: do they bring the winter, or does the winter bring them? Like to me, I'm still up in the air about it. I don't know. I couldn't tell you one or the other. I'm not, more percent on one than the other. Hopefully it'll be answered one day. But what do you think was this whole thing that started this? Why did they start coming forward? What was the deciding event that said, okay, something was broke, something happened, now we need to go and kill a lot of people? So start with you, Alicia.
I am not sure. I've been trying to figure out what exactly it was that made them, try to start moving south. Because I don't believe it was, Ned leaving Winterfell and, the whole Stark must be in Winterfell or whatnot. They were recruiting and building their army long before that, killing off the wildlings and turning them into whites. So I don't know. I think we need to see what the actual outcome of the first long night was and how things were settled between, the Starks and the others, or, all of the realm and the others. I think there's a lot of history that is missing that we don't know. And I don't think the White Walkers are just completely pure evil. They're doing what they're doing for a reason. They've shown signs of having a culture. So I can't say what it was that took them off to make them start moving south and conquering and whatnot, because we don't have enough information.
I'm still trying to figure out how they came up with their whole pact with Craster, because Craster gave up his sons to the White Walkers. I mean, we're still missing a lot because there should be probably over 100 White Walkers at this point, between the ones that were already there plus the 99 sons that Craster gave up. So I mean, like, we've only ever seen at most on screen 13. I think they've killed 4 White Walkers on the show?
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, like, we need to know what made them pick Craster, And also, were there any others that did the same thing? Because I doubt Craster was the first one to ever give up his kids to the White Walkers.
And who translated that conversation?
Right, that was my curious. Say, how did they even talk about it?
They don't speak the common tongue. Like I believe they can understand it, but they don't speak it at all. So how did Craster come up on this deal with him giving away his sons? I don't know.
And in the show, they don't speak whatsoever. You know, so that's even crazier. It's like how do you do sign language? You just point. Craster is sitting there like, oh, damn bastard son, I don't want this kid here. He goes to take him out in the woods, and then just the White Walker standing there and just like,
what's up?
It's just like,
there you go.
Mm-hmm. And how did they always seem to know when it was time to go and pick up a new child?
Oh, they've been stalking them. Straight stalk. They can smell the masculine blood.
Their blood.
They can smell the masculine blood. So they go to Craster, give him a bottle of wine, and that's how he knows when he's gonna have a son.
Hey, give him a little cigar. Says it's a boy.
Little
Philly blunt.
we got this cigar and some ice wine for you that you can only find in the vineyards in the lands of always winter.
They got the finest frozen Arbor Gold and shit.
Yeah, I always wonder that too, because like you said in the show, they don't even talk. But then, like, I guess because that's the kind of shit like with the Children of the Forest. It's like another reason. Like, I think there's more with them. I mean, you see, like in the show at least, shows creating that one with the dragon glass. I always thought maybe there's something up with them too. Like you said, how did they know to like broker this deal? Like, the children, because maybe they speak that whole scrawl or whatever it's called, but maybe like you say, they might understand the old tongue, and a lot. I know some of the wildlings and the giants, some of the things they talk it. So I mean, and the Children of the Forest apparently understands. So maybe it was just some kind of broker thing, but a couple parties. Like, I just don't understand how that shit would have came about. I don't know, like what like if they, like you said, I can't see it being Craster being the only one that had in on this deal. And then too, like, what was it in the beginning when they first started to do their thing? Was it just the White Walkers? And then, these Craster kids or whoever else were White Walkers. And then they said, okay, we need to start building an army. So they go around taking out these little villages here and there of wildlings to add to their army of the dead. Like, what was the process? Like, they should come out with a whole history and lore just of the White Walkers. Like, how it started, why they started. Like, and I know they don't want to answer too much because it'll kind of give up some shit, but I think it would be beneficial in the story to know what they want. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. But yeah, when the now with this whole deciding thing happened, all right, it doesn't matter if it's a battle or whatever. We already pretty much talked about what we think is going to happen with Jon. Now, do you think with Jon, is it going to be, is a life sacrifice? Like, he's going to literally have to run in gung-ho and give up his life to take, the Night King out? Or, like, I think we're pretty much in agreement with, do you think Jon's going to be this buffer in the end? Jon's going to have to be the one that marches them back north, keeps them north. And like you said, like, we don't know why it started. So if we figure out why it started and keep that from happening again, do you think that's going to be Jon's responsibility? Start with Don Willi.
Yeah, I think that it'll fall to Jon. Again, it's like, in order for him to secure the peace, he will have to become the new Night King / King of Winter, in order to secure the peace for 1,000 years. But the cycle will probably start all over again. I don't think this will be something everlasting. It'll probably, like I said, it'll be him, Jon versus the Night King 1-on-1, because Jon did talk about of like when he approached Ramsay before the Battle of the Bastards, saying, "Let's do things the old way." And who's older than the Night King? So him and the Night King will have their one-on-one. Jon will wind up killing him. The White Walkers will bend the knee, but I think that might actually start uh some kind of code in Jon's head where he's about to start attacking people, and then Bran is like, "Nope, look, here's what you got to do in order for the White Walkers to no longer attack for now."
What about you, Alicia? You think you in the same you in agreement with that, or do you think it's going to be a alternate situation
And which part are we on?
with
Sorry.
Jon with the end? Whenever it happens with the end battle, pact, whatever, is Jon going to end up being that buffer, either becoming their so-called leader to take them back and keep them north until something we'll find out why they came through. Jon's got responsibility in the end. It's going to keep that from happening again. Do you think that's what's going to happen?
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. He'll, like I said, he'll have to take the place of the Night King and lead them all back north to help stop it. I think there will be some stipulations in the rules along the way, like he may have to stay north of the wall, or they could spin it to where he'll still rule in the north, and possibly if they end up rebuilding the wall, then he'll also be like a sentinel there, always on guard and watching, which is what the Night's Watch is supposed to do, watch out for the others. But it's hard to tell. I think we need more information on all fronts, more history, so we know why what is happening now has happened before and what we can do to stop it and break the cycle.
Yeah, that was a good point. Like what Don Willi said about, I think that Bran has more of a more to do with the end. I think, like, I just don't see Bran dying out like all of a sudden. Like, I think Bran's gonna have some kind of role in the end too. And it's like Don Willi said, like maybe something happens with Johnny's turn somehow. And like you said, Bran, not so much warging, but like have to like give him guidance on what is to be done. And I mean, it makes sense. I mean, like I seen even before them crazy leaks came out about next season or whatever. Like I seen something in Reddit, I think last year, about like Bran being that person because of him, having the whole green seer ability. And the way it seems the show's going is that like the Night King has the same ability, if not stronger. So like I could see maybe Bran taking that part if Jon's kept in the human world as like their savior king, whatever. But that goes, I guess, into one of the last things we'll get into with the what's going to happen with what remains of the Seven Kingdoms and the Iron Throne. Me, honestly, I think that it's gonna revert back maybe to 7 individual kingdoms with some kind of like titular I think that's what you say it, like title, where it's like kind of like the Queen of England kind of thing. She can't really send in cats to war and shit like that, but it's like a title, it's like a what are they called, ceremonial title or whatever. Do you guys think is going to happen with that? Do you think it's the same thing, or do you think it's going to be something different, like a democracy of some sort?
I think they're definitely leaning towards democracy. How exactly they're going to do it, I'm not sure. I think a lot of the lands in the South are going to be war torn and ravaged. So it's going to be a hell of a job to get them back into gear and trading and making money and all that nonsense. But it's going to be a rough ass hill climb. But if they survive, or if one of them survives, either John or Danny. I think that they'll definitely help rebuild. They'll be the ruling class, but it'll be a lot less more like the monarchy. Like the small council will actually be, you know, the people all together collectively that set the rules. It won't just be a king or queen, but these groups of, you know, trusted advisors from all of the different kingdoms to make sure, you know, every interest is met, so to speak, happens. And as far as the way they do things now, I think that's very quickly going to be deposed. Like, you know, one of my random tinfoil theories is, you know, with Sam, a lot of people think that at the end of the story, it's going to be him narrating this whole book. I think it's possible that it'll be Gilly, because in the New World Order, the knowledge at the Citadel isn't going to be kept strictly to guys, and, you know, no women or children allowed. I think that's going to be completely tossed out, and Gilly could be the one that's actually teaching this history class, and she's narrating and telling this story for whatever reason. Tinfoil, but it works in my head canon.
No, it's just your opinion, and your opinion counts. So yeah, no, I don't think anything really when it comes to the end game or whatever. You know, we none of us really going. All we can do is give our opinion on it. I mean, when it all ends, it might be the most, you know, crazy out there theory or whatever happens that none of us probably think about, but I'm pretty sure somebody have thought about it. But what do you think, Don Willi? What do you think is going to end up with the Westeros as a whole? Is it going to stay the same, or are they going to completely get rid of the Iron Throne and become the American Westeros of democracy? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't get Tyrion mentioning that to Daenerys without it being at least a possibility, because, you know, he mentions the Iron Islands. He mentioned trying to think where else. Oh, he mentioned the Iron Islands. He mentioned the Night's Watch, you know, and them voting for their rulers and all that stuff. So I don't think that you get that if it wasn't going to be at least, you know, something where people can say, okay, well, who do you want to be the leader? It could be a ruling council as opposed to it being one particular person. You could have it be the Seven Kingdoms, but they have to all rule kind of in concert with each other. Whereas, you know, where you have governing bodies, but they don't get to make rules just for their own particular region. They got to go through the other six kingdoms in order to cement any changes. But they might still have a head of the ruling council. Yeah, so it I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I think it's kind of a foregone conclusion that we are going to see the destruction of the Red Keep, and no one in particular sitting the Iron Throne and being like the one king or queen of the entire story. But honestly, at this point, it's a little hard to tell.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I can see, you know, like you said, like with Tyrion bringing that up. I don't think Tyrion, you know, a lot of things I think are put there for a reason, especially one of those being what you said with Tyrion, how like you brought up with the whole, you know, like I think that it could probably be like, you know, how they have like this small council, but it being more represented by the individual kingdoms, because like I just can't see how, with the how different some of these kingdoms are. Like I can't see them, you know, just thinking that a king can make an opinion on some or choice of something and just think that's gonna fly for every one of them because like every one of these kingdoms are different. Like you look at Dorne in the north for one, like they are so totally different from the others, you know, and you can't make a choice about something that would fit with the Southerners, like the Reach, the Crown Lands, Riverlands, and think it's gonna take the same, in the North or Dorne. It's just like any other part of the world. Like even in America, like you got the South, you got the North, you got the West. Each one of those regions are different. And I think it's good that they're different. Like if everybody was same, just like everybody was like a robot and everybody did the same thing, it would be boring. But yeah, I really do see the Iron Throne pretty much being donezo after this. If anything, maybe it's like a ceremonial thing and they're not pretty much being like a democracy where they hold elections, but excuse me, maybe every individual kingdom has some kind of something like that. Or if that's how each kingdom wants to be ruled, where they, a Stark's always leading them, that's fine. If that's how they want to do it. But that representative representing them in the whole Westeros picture, you know what I mean? Like I don't see the Iron Throne being around after all this is done. At least not the way that we've seen it. But everyone's going to wrap it up on that. We're going to take some questions here as long as these two fun people would like to take them. And we start off with which one you want to start off with, Alicia? I'll let you pick first one.
Let's see. What was the first one we had? Was from Felicia.
Little Bear Hater.
Yeah, when will Lyanna Mormont die? Stop hating on the little bear, son. The little bear stepped in the spot and was telling grown-ass men to shut up and sit the fuck down. Man, look, if you have read the books and you know anything about Mage Mormont's character, that woman don't play. I mean, you look at all these, all the bastards that were born in the North, their last name is Snow. No one knows who Mage's children is. No one knows who their father is, but they don't have the Snow last name. Their last name is Mormont, and she gives no fucks about how proud they are. And Lyanna is the exact same way. I like the little girl. I like House Mormont, except for Jorah. He needs to stop touching shit with his damn stone herpes and all that bullshit. But House Mormont's pretty damn cool. They're as loyal, if not even a little more than the Manderleys. And we all know how the Manderleys feel about the Starks. So I think Lyanna is going to die at some point next season, but I don't think that she necessarily deserves to die like a lot of the other characters, if that makes sense.
Okay, we'll probably take like between 5 and 10 because we all got pretty much get going. But we'll take then. You want to take the next one, Don Willi? You see the next one?
All right. Let's see here. All right. So the next question we got from Alan. Sorry, no. What's the next one? Next one. Oh, from Violent Messiah. Why does Brienne get a pass for her king slaying crimes? Justice for King Stannis. You know what? Just because there's someone who I know this answer is going to piss off. Because D&D. She gets a pass because D&D.
Right. That plot armor is strong. Strong, children.
Oh man. So yeah, that's why she gets a pass for her crimes. As Jerry would say, Brienne the criminal.
You know what though? I mean, even Stannis recognized her worth in that moment though. She broke it down to him, as Lady D would say. She broke it down like a fraction. And what could the man say besides, all right, go ahead and do your duty. Yeah, I fucked up. I'm gonna go ahead and take this L. Swing the sword.
Yeah, I mean, I was cool with the way. I mean, I like Stannis more than most people, but like I like the way he went off with it. He didn't try to justify nothing. He realized that he wasn't looking too far, and he just said,
"Come on." A long time ago that he was wrong. When him and Melisandre were having that talk, he was like, okay, but I killed my brother. And Stannis is always one to go by the rules. Like we saw when Robert was in rebellion, he was conflicted as to whether he should serve Robert or serve Aerys. Because like he said, Aerys ruled by all the laws of gods and men, but there are still older rules, and the little brother bows to the older brother. So he knew he done fucked up. Was he right in trying to take Renly out? Well, yeah. You know, like I just said, the younger brother bows to the older brother. However, you did still Kingslay, bruh. So you gotta do some penance on that, and not just Kingslay, but he kinslayed, and that's an even bigger no to the old gods in the north. They don't like ugly like that.
No, I mean that's the one thing I gave him respect with was it.
Yeah.
He
facts
took
are facts. He accepted it. He was like, you know what? Yeah, you're fucking right. I'm gonna take this L. Go ahead, do your duty.
Right. Next, I think we got Alan. This is a really good question. I don't know how much I can answer it though. But Q&A: Can the Night King be beaten without becoming an idiot? I would hope not. I mean, I would hope he could be beaten without him doing something really stupid. But he does look very OP right now. So I think it's gonna be like a Danny thing where Danny was looking really unstoppable for a minute, and they had to be brought down a peg. But that works with humans, so I don't know with these magical ice beings if that logic still works with them. Now I believe it with Danny because she had to be brought down to show that she is human, and so. I don't know. With Night King, I could see them doing something to make him, slip up somehow. So I don't know. What do you two think? You think it's like that, or you just think, John's gonna show how OP he is, and then take out the Night King?
Go ahead, Don Willi.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get, the most fanfic fanfic fan service battle. It's gonna wind up being that somehow John has learned from Beric Dondarrion how to make his sword flame, and he'll be there fighting against the Night King one-on-one in the middle of King's Landing with his flaming sword versus the Night King's ice sword, and that's how he's able to defeat him. And it won't be because the Night King is an idiot. It'll just be because, John is the true savior of all Westeros. And then he's going to dab on him afterwards, dragon tears.
Dad, I'm out.
They're gonna I think they're gonna give him the Littlefinger treatment. Littlefinger was smart as fuck and scheming like a boss until the end, where he started fucking up and doing that fuck shit because he started thinking with his dick. And I think they're gonna do somewhat of the same with the Night King. He's gonna slip up and do some shit that's out of character, and that'll be his downfall. So yeah, I feel you on that, Don Willi. I feel you.
That ginger snapper got him in the end.
Yeah, listen, that John's dab game is going to be super strong at the end. He's going to chop him down, and he's going to stand there. He's going to drop the sword, and then when the White Walkers stand there looking at John like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it! How did this happen?" They're going to be standing there looking at him. He's just going to be like,
dab on him.
There you go.
Yo, what up, Broke Black Man? Just now joining us in the chats. Yeah, I think the Night King. He's a pretty interesting villain, and I say villain loosely because I don't know that he's really the true villain. I think there's a lot goings on that we don't know, and we're gonna find out that there's a whole lot of layers to this guy, and what he's doing. And I can't wait for it.
We'll take this last one at Teamer. This one really I didn't really think of until she just said it. Timo said, "But do you think bringing in the Golden Company might set up for a prequel show since it's so late in the game?" That, I mean, it's a good question. I mean, there's no other reason I think to bring the Golden Company in. They're not going to definitely do the Fagon thing, and the Golden Company's always been put as like the fighters for what's right for the Blackfire. So maybe they would do some kind of Blackfire rebellion kind of thing as a prequel. Maybe, I mean, I think that's what maybe she's asking. What do you two think? You think, Alicia, do you think it's going to set up somehow for a prequel? And if so, what prequel would that be? A Blackfire rebellion of some sort?
It's possible. It is possible. I think if they did set up a prequel, it would have to be like way back in the day with when they got to like the first Blackfire rebellion, right after Aegon IV died and legitimized all those bastards. But I know Martin said there's some things that he doesn't want them telling on screen because he wants to do more books in that arena. So we may not be able to get it, like something like the War of the Nine Penny Kings, which was like the last Blackfire rebellion. We may not get that because that does also tie in with some other historical battles in that past. But if they did set it up as a prequel, I mean, I'd be interested in seeing it. Hopefully it's done right, but
I mean, is Aegon the egg? He's still alive when Nine Pennies happens? I know Ares is pretty young then, right?
Yeah, Ares is not on the throne yet. The Nine Penny Kings was, I want to say it was early into Egg's reign.
I know Barristan was one that killed him, right? Melees.
Yes, I believe so. Yep, you're correct.
Yeah, that brings up a good point because, with the whole him wanting to do like more Dunkin' eggs, and then if it's gonna go all the way up to when Egg tries to hatch the eggs and dies, there's a lot that in that time period that happened. So like you said, I think it would make more sense when it comes to Blackfire rebellions to have it happen for the first one because there's more notables. You can show Bloodraven, you got Daemon. The Blackfire,
how cool would that shit be to see on screen? Like, especially bringing in Bloodraven, because Bloodraven just had such a unique and awesome look. And like at Ice and Fire Con, there was a guy that was dressed as Bloodraven when he was still Hand and Master of Whispers at King's Landing, and he looked pretty freaking awesome.
He had the birthmark and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
That shit up. And I would love to see that the battle with them when the Raven's Teeth came in, because what other hand has had their own personal army like that? I mean, like, we know Tywin was Lord of Castle Rock while he was Hand, but he didn't have like his own personal guard like Bloodraven did. I just always found that shit interesting.
And Bloodraven, he didn't even have like a lordship or nothing, did he?
Yeah, no, he didn't.
So he didn't have like a retinue.
Great masters. He just got raised up because he was good at doing all the mystical shit that he did.
What do you think, Don Willi? You think that, to end this off, do you think that that's setting up for a prequel of some sorts, or do you just think that's a little too much to ask?
The only reason why I think they wouldn't do it is because we've only ever got one mention of the Blackfires, period. And that was in the history and lore. And I'm honestly speaking, the history and lore things is kind of more for them to show us, hey, yeah, look, we've kind of, if you want to know a little bit about some of the stuff that happens in the books that isn't going to appear on screen, here it is. So I think the fact that we haven't gotten a mention of the Blackfires in the show, it would be not disingenuous, but I don't think it would serve the story that they've actually crafted on screen to now all of a sudden bring in anything about the Blackfire rebellions, only because you don't have Aegon because if the Aegon in the books is a Blackfire and Varys is part of the whole Blackfire plot, it really would fall apart if you have the Golden Company being the setup for something that Varys, is real integral to the storyline, and Varys has no part in it. It would look really out of place, at least for someone like me. Yeah, because like if I had never read the books and I see the Golden Company pop up, and all of a sudden they're talking about how, oh well, yeah, we were part of an offshoot. I mean, they could mention the Blackfire rebellions, but I don't think that it would set up for I don't think it would set up for a prequel, only because I just don't think that the Blackfire rebellions are strong enough to carry a full show. The Blackfire rebellions didn't last long enough for it to carry a full show. It would have to be something more in the background of it being like the first one took place before Dunk and Egg.
Yep.
So unless you're gonna make Bloodraven the main character of the show and everything is more from his perspective, then you could do the Blackfire rebellions. But if Bloodraven isn't the main character, because he's the only one that's alive throughout all of them,
right?
So, but by the time you get to the War of the Nine Penny Kings, Bloodraven is already been sent to the wall. He's already disappeared by that point, if I'm not mistaken. So, again, I just don't think that having the Golden Company be a setup for a prequel just wouldn't work, just off of the fact that there's not enough characters that you could have a through line to keep the story going. You would have to make it more like an anthology series, because they don't all take place in the same generations.
Yeah, because I think they are that does happen before I mean after he's sent to the wall, because I mean it's right when Egg pretty much takes the kingship, because then they call like a council, because then that when Aemon is supposed to take the kingship and he turns it down,
he abdicates.
Yeah, so then that's when Egg takes it, and then that's when he sentences Bloodraven, because the one it was another Daemon Blackfire, I think, that was coming over to be part of the council. Remember, he invites him, and then when he gets there, he kills him.
Yeah, it was either Daemon the Third.
Yeah, I think it is.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
No, his name started with an A.
Yeah, it was. Shit. I'm gonna have to look this up now, because it wasn't Daemon the Third, because the whole thing that happened was when Daemon the Second got caught during the whole thing in the Mystery Night. They were gonna try to make Daemon's the original Daemon's grandson Daemon III, but they were like, nope, we're gonna keep this Daemon alive, so this way you can't name the other one Daemon III. So that was the whole thing that happened with the first time. Well, not the first time, but that was one of the times where Bittersteel actually didn't support Daemon II.
Right.
He was going to bring up Daemon III, and they were like, well, you can't crown Daemon III Blackfire if Daemon II Blackfire is still around. So it was, Aenys Blackfire.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because wasn't one of them the third one was Hagon, wasn't it? Hagon Blackfire?
Yeah. Hagon Blackfire came because you had Aegon and Aemon, who were the twins who got killed.
Right.
Then you had Daemon. Then it was Hagon after Daemon eventually died, because Daemon III wound up dying for some other reason. They tried to bring over Hagon. Hagon actually got killed. That's when they captured Bittersteel and tried to send him to the wall.
He got away.
And he got away. and then later on, like when it came to Aegon. Well, no, but I'm saying when it came to Aegon the fifth generation, they called the Great Council. Then Blood Raven, like he sent the Raven, he sent the petition, like, hey, look, let's at least talk about this. And as soon as he got there, Blood Raven arrested him and beheaded him after he promised him safe conduct.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I guess we can all can dream. It'd be cool to see it, but yeah, like you said, I think they're probably gonna keep it to something that everybody that just watches the show will be able to, get involved with it, and get invested in. I just don't see him doing Robert's Rebellion, though. That would be. I just don't see what the point would be, because all this is what led up from that. I mean, I would watch it regardless, but I can see them doing something that people would know, but not be like a rerun, pretty much, of what happened. Like, do you think there's a chance it's going to be Robert's Rebellion over others?
No, because Martin said he didn't want them doing that because he was going to write a little more about it, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Yeah, he said he didn't want the two that he said he definitely did not want them to do, or basically he forbade them from doing, was Robert's Rebellion and Dunk and Egg, because he was like, he doesn't want to get caught up the same way how he got caught up with Song of Ice and Fire with Dunk and Egg. And Robert's Rebellion, he was like, by the time the books are finished, you will know everything that happened with Robert's Rebellion. So he didn't want that to be a show, but I would love to see that as a show, because I think it would be pretty interesting if you do that as like maybe a 3-season series, 3 seasons, maybe like not even, you don't even have to do 10 episodes for that one, but do 3 seasons of Robert's Rebellion where you show the setup with the whole tourney at Harrenhal, the beginning of Robert's Rebellion, the end of Robert's Rebellion with the sack of King's Landing, and then have it the last scene be Ned and company riding to the Tower of Joy.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool too if they showed like the like how we're now just you're finding out about like how it's all pretty much built on a lie kind of thing. If they showed the viewers that portion of it, but the people that are involved with the rebellion still really don't know the whole thing with Rhaegar and Lyanna, that'd be pretty cool, I guess. It'd be cool to see that, I guess, play out. But like I said, I know you done, but you got to get going, so do I. I just want to say thank you to everybody that's in the chat still with us. We got Timo, Alan, JD, BBM, Violet Messiah, Moni, I See Spots, Felicia, Alan. Probably gonna miss a couple, but it's not on purpose. Yeah, that's all I can see right. I think I named most of them. Marco, Ion Trone as always. So yeah, I appreciate everybody that's here with us still and that came out at all tonight to join us. I really want to thank my guest tonight, Alicia, Don Willi. Glad you guys could wrap this up with me on the part 2 and finish this up. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to join me. So I just want to say thank you to you guys. If you guys want to go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you or any last thing you want to say, go ahead, Alicia.
Yeah, thank you, Tony, my brother, for having me on. It's always a blast talking Thrones and chat room. Appreciate y'all being here with us. If you're a fan of The Walking Dead, go over to the Walking Bread channel and check my boys and Josh and Alex out. We're doing all of the motion comics for The Walking Dead. I voice Michonne as of issue 52, so go check us out. Drop us some love. If anybody is thinking of going to Ice and Fire Con next year, when you go to purchase your ticket, if you use the code Ginger Ale, then you'll be able to get $5 off your ticket, courtesy of the Mad Queens. You can always catch me around hanging with my homies. I'm on everybody else's channel a little bit more than I'm on mine, but sub me if you want. I drop stuff every now and then. If you like fan fiction, hit me up on fanfiction.net or on archiveofourown.org under Guyana Rose. You can go check out my Glee stories and all that good stuff. And thank you again, Tony. It's always fun hanging out with everybody. Appreciate y'all in the chat, chilling with us, talking Thrones as always. And I'll see y'all in the next one.
Don Willi, everybody. Oh, no.
Sorry. Next weekend, Monero is going to be having a ginger ale chat. So it's either going to be Friday or Saturday. So hit us up. Y'all know that ginger ale be strong.
Oh, shit. I can't wait. All right, Don Willi, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, listen, you can find me at Adon of Ice and Fire. Currently the thing that I'm doing on a consistent basis is Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, p.m. You can catch me doing Ice and Fire opinions. My last one was Theon Greyjoy. My next one will be everyone's favorite baker, Hot Pie. And yeah, I'm working on the case against Dan and Dave, part 2, Slack to the Future. And also, I'm going to get back into doing some of my older style videos, traveling throughout the world of Ice and Fire to bring you some more character profiles. Yeah, get back to how I used to do things. So yeah, check me out with those. And Tony, thank you very much for having me. This was awesome to do. Alicia, we got to get up and do some things. Timo, I'm calling you out. This debate gonna happen. Swear to the old guys and the new, you know what it is. Anyway, yeah, and as I always do, rate, comment, subscribe, share, tell your friends to come back for more. That has been my time. It is Don Willi saying Vala Dohiris. Woo!
All right, everybody. Thanks again for coming out, and thanks to my guests, and that is it. Thanks for everyone coming out. Like you said, like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see everybody on the next one later.
I'll let y'all.